Hello, hello. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live event. I'm so glad that you're joining us today for what promises to be a deeply personal and motivational conversation. So, I'm going to be chatting with two leaders, their journeys, their mistakes. We'll talk about their moments that have helped shape them into who they are today. First, I am Orumé Hayes, your host and CEO of Hayes CPA, a New York City certified minority women-owned business. I also serve on the board of New York State Societies of CPA, and I am a regional vice president with NABA Inc. I'm also the immediate past president with AICPA's PCPS Executive Committee. Quick fun fact about me. I am passionate about running, and in 2010, a long time ago, I ran the New York City Marathon. But a couple months ago, 2 months ago, I was in Malta and I went riding for the very first time. I was on a quad bike and it was a great experience. But it was funky, but it was a great experience. So now, today, I want to give you all human stories between two of NABA's most influential leaders, where they came from, their moves, what they made, the mistakes that they made, what they would say right now to their 25-year-old self. Because you know what? If you strip away all of their titles, what you really see are two people who choose over and over again to climb and to bring someone with them every time. So full transparency, I met Bianca and Rautz through NABA's Eastern region where we all serve on the boards together. So I've seen firsthand how they lead. Our first guest is Bianca Douglas, Vice President and Lead Human Resources Business Partner for Group Insurance as Prudential Financial. She leads HR strategy for one of Prudential's largest businesses, shaping talent, culture, and leadership at scale. She also serves as the second VP at NABA Inc., and she is a driving force behind many of the chapters, especially in advancing scholarships and developing the next generation of Black accounting and finance professionals. Our second guest is Marc, Senior Risk Director at Vanguard's Workplace Solutions. He has spent over 13 years at Prudential in increasingly senior risk roles, and before joining Vanguard that was before he joined Vanguard in 2021. His impact in NABA, well, I tell you, it runs deep. From the Philadelphia chapter to Eastern Region President, and now serving as the first VP for the Eastern Region. He is also on the board of All Star Code and Insights Reimagine. So, what makes this conversation especially powerful is their paths they cross paths a long time ago at Prudential. They had different functions, they had different journeys, but what they had in common was their commitment to leadership and impact. So today we'll hear how they got there the real way, not the LinkedIn or the headline type of way. So I'm going to drop their bios in the chat, so you guys please connect with them and you can follow them for more inspiration. Before we dive into their stories, I usually like to give the audience a little bit of insight into the people that I'm speaking with. So I would ask for each of you to share a quick fun fact about yourself. Bianca, let's start with you.
Oh, fun fact.
Also, anything you want to share with the audience.
I would say fun fact. I learned and I don't even think you guys know this, at 19, 20, how to race car drive. So I ran a quarter
Oh,
mile at English Town. So that was like
Wow.
what you would expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
nice,
Mhm.
Yep.
nice. That's a good one. What about you, Ruth?
Maybe two fun facts. One,
Yes, please.
I
Overachiever.
I speak a second language, which I
Mhm.
grew up on. So I'm Haitian American. So we speak Haitian Creole. And the second fun fact, the guys know I'm a huge Eagles fan, so
Uh,
I want to make sure that that's
touche.
known.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, the last time we were all together was actually when we were celebrating the NABA's Eastern Region 50th anniversary, celebration. Well,
Mhm.
I spoke about the fact that we at NABA, you we lift as you climb. So we want to talk about who lifted you up, who was behind you. We want to hear from you what advice you'll give to the next generation. So, folks, whether you are an accounting student, an early career professional, a mid-career leader, or someone who was just trying to figure out what your next move is, pull up a chair, drop your questions or your comments in the chat. Okay, this is for you. Let's get started. Bianca, take us back. Where did you grow up? Who was the first person in your life who showed you what leadership was like or what professional success is, whatever you want to call it?
That's an easy one. So when I was thinking about my grandmother. So I was raised by my grandmother, and even now, like I look back and I understand things differently even than I did then. But we were an ordinary family, didn't have a whole lot. We had what we needed, but in terms of the things, didn't have a whole lot, but we had food on our table, we had family. But I look back even now. Oh, am I alone? Oh, there we go. I look back now and I think about her resilience. Like that's something that I would say that motivated me the most. When you think about many, many years ago, so we're talking like in the 70s, like what little access to things, no technology, and her ability to raise a family and her granddaughter and then take others in and care for all of us. And she showed a lot of resilience.
That's great to hear. It's grandmothers, sometimes we forget about them, but my grandmother was a strong woman as well. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Ruth, let's come to you. I know you've built a career that goes deep in one discipline. I mean, you were at, like I said, Prudential for 13 years and now at Vanguard. So what were you like as a young professional? And then when did you first get the sense that risk management? Tell us what is that? What do you do exactly? When did you decide that that was where you wanted to live with your career?
So I'd love to say that I had a plan that was thought out and I knew ultimately what I wanted to be when I grew up. But it didn't happen that way. I think I fell into risk management by happenstance. And maybe I was at inroads in my career. So I started my career off at KPMG here in Philadelphia, in audit supporting or auditing a lot of financial institutions. So private equity, hedge funds, and asset managers. And when I was looking to transition from my audit role at KPMG, I wanted to work on my analytical skills and problem solving skills. And that's when I fell into risk management at Prudential. I had a great conversation with the team here in the Fort Washington office. And it was something that I knew that was going to stretch me to be a better leader. In a discipline that was different from what I grew up in terms of finance and accounting. But it would allow me to really display and hone in my analytical skills. So that's the reason why I fell into risk management. And the reason why I stayed was being able to really partner with business leaders and help them achieve their business goals. So not only protecting their downside, but also allowing them to see their upsides as well. So that's the reason why I stayed in risk management, and it's always evolving. It isn't something that is I would say typical as there's a typical day. Every day is different. You might come in with a plan, but that can truly change day to day and minute to minute. So that's what has kept my interest, and that's the reason why I still remain in risk management.
I love that. We know I can, and sometimes folks think that okay, if you're in accounting, you must have a very boring job or something, right? So this is to say that risk management, whatever field you're in, it doesn't matter. You could have a very exciting job. Plan your day, and before the end of the day, something
Mhm.
else is happening. So let's talk about NABA because that's our common theme here, right? So how did NABA first enter your life? Like how did you get engaged? Who invited you? Did you just stumble upon it? What convinced you to stay? And for folks who are watching us right now, I'm going to drop a poll in the chat. Please tell us, who invited you into the community, whether it was a mentor or a family member. Share with us and tell us where you're calling in from as well. So, who wants to take that first? Ruth.
I'll take it first.
Okay.
So for me, it was by accident I found out about NABA actually. So I was a sophomore at Temple University at the time, and I was looking at Temple University, and similar to all universities or colleges around the nation, there were student-ran organizations, and I was looking to get involved with one in particular that was more finance related. And I had a friend of mine from Chicago, and I was talking to him, and he told me his name is Vladimir Medusa, and he called me and was like, "Hey, check to see if there's a NABA chapter on your campus." And I was like, why NABA? And he told me about the model, lifting as we climb, and how they were able to support him in becoming a better leader, allowing him to get an internship at Deloitte. And he ended up getting a full-time position there. And that was my goal in college, was to get a full-time position. So I joined NABA at Temple my sophomore year, and I wasn't able to I wasn't able to be a leader there, or have a leadership role there, just because I was going to school full time and working full time. But afterwards, once I graduated, I got involved with the Philadelphia chapter, and from there, I've been hooked ever since. I got nabbatized, and I want to say 20 years later, I'm
Woohoo!
still here.
I hear you. I'm a newbie, but compared to you, but I'm not hooked. So, what about you, Bianca?
So into different spin story, and both of you've heard this story before. So as an employer, I was pulled in more as a partner. So as I think my thinking about my role and HR head for a business at the time, I was the head of HR for a finance organization, was asked to come in and help to think about the strategic partnership for Prudential with NABA as an organization. And so originally it started out as a job, right? A task to do and go figure it out. And, the beneficial part was like for me, I get to be around people who look like me and have, career aspirations. And like you, Roots, once I got in and they really understood the model and the purpose and the connection of the community, I became hooked. So now my engagement is probably 80% personal and 20% partnership. We still have the level of partnership at Prudential as we've always had, but it doesn't require as much of a hands-on lift. And so I went from going in with a business purpose to strengthen a business partner relationship to now as a non-accounting and finance professional, all things NABA.
Well, we're glad that you're with NABA. Personally, professionally, partnership with the organization, it's great. So let me stick with you, Bianca. When you look at your journey, and you've risen up through the ranks, right? I don't know what your very first career was like when you got out of college, but what would you say are two or three decisions that have changed your trajectory in, and whether it's at Prudential or even earlier?
Um, so there are a couple things that come to mind. So one in particular, which I didn't realize until the moment came, uh, was the need to get new experiences. So much like Roots, similar experience, work full time, school full time. At the time, it was like get a job, find a career, get with a good company, and kind of
Mhm.
like do your thing, right? That's just kind of how I'd come up at that time and where I was focused. And it was really about, for lack of better description, survival, right? Being able to stay relevant, keep a seat at the table and in the room. And I didn't think as much as about getting different experiences because frankly they felt risky, right? It was like which come up at a time where you stick with what you know and you don't veer too far left. And if you do a good job, you will be rewarded. And it was very hierarchical. One of the biggest, I say, experiences that came for me was probably mid-career, realizing the importance of taking sometimes lateral and what I call kind of unusual experiences. So the things or the jobs that maybe even I didn't think that I could or should do, but those different experiences, what I call now, added to my toolkit. right? Like we come with a set of superpowers that we bring, and anyone who works with us throughout our career could kind of all agree, right, around those superpowers. But what are the things that are not our superpowers that we need to continue to refine? So I would say that was the one, the new experiences. The other was the importance of expanding my circle of influence. So as I came up my career, it was realizing that my network needed to be bigger than the people who were like me, right? To really help and stretch and open my mind, and people who I could trust and who would tell me the things that people in the workplace sometimes would want to tell me, but would struggle with telling me.
Mm.
So always opening my sphere of influence and circle so that I was getting different perspectives. And then the last I would say was the importance of earned sponsorship. So you often talk about the importance of sponsorship and mentorship, but sponsorship in particular, meaning who are the people who are going to advocate for you when you're not in the room and when you don't even know you need it. Really being focused on making sure I earned that sponsorship. And I would say when I got to that point of recognizing how to do that in a way that's not asking someone to be my sponsor, but delivering and
Mhm.
executing in a way where the sponsorship just organically happens, I would say those would be the three things that really, once I realized those at different stages, like every all doors open.
I think that's really key. I mean, earn sponsorship because, like you said, it's like, yeah, you want to be sponsored, but have you put in your work? Have you actually
Hmm.
earned it, right?
Hmm.
So that's really important. So all three things that you shared were really great. I love the, circle of influence, the sphere of influence. But Ru, let me come to you. When we look at the move you made from leaving Prudential after 13 years and then going into Vanguard, a lot of times a lot of folks have, angst and, phobia about making such a move. So what went through you? What was going on in your head when you made that move? Did you know immediately it was the right call? Because some folks are like, oh, this is risky. I'm going to be the newbie on the block and whatnot. A lot of things that really gets people all worried up. Yeah.
Um, so it was the right move for me, and at the right time. And to be candid, I don't know if I would have made that move if we weren't in a pandemic, right? Because there were when you're at a firm or at a place for 13 years, you build deep relationships. So it isn't just a coworker. Those relationships become personal. Um, and the pandemic, what it kind of allowed us, everybody at the time, was one. Obviously, most of us were home. We were all remote, and some of those relationships was through a screen. And when the opportunity came across to join another firm, to join Vanguard, I think it just made me realize, like, hey, could this be the right time for me to try on a new challenge? Everybody was trying to figure out this new virtual world that we were in. And Vanguard was kind of the opportunity for me to go someplace else, help build out their risk functions, and try something different in a different industry. So for me, that was the push. I wanted to continue challenging myself, and be able to go from one firm that was pretty established, not that Vanguard isn't established, but Prudential, who's been around for 150 years, I believe, or over 100 years, to one that have not only the name recognition but was a private firm, where I can come bring some of my expertise to help our business partners, our the new creative function that was there, so that we can be able to achieve the goal and at least for Vanguard to be there for another 50 plus years.
Yep. Amen to that. Another 50 years. We're talking about achievements and goals. So this is actually for both of you, and I want to piggyback off what one of the things you said, Bianca, about the earned sponsorship. So if you could, I know this might be difficult for you to do, but if you could name one person, just one person, who you would not be sitting where you're at today, um, can you share with us who that one person is? What did they do? What did they tell you? What advice did they give you? What opportunity did they give you? If you would like to share, Bianca.
Professional? So we're talking
Yes.
professional, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, there's one person in particular, who may nameless, but
Okay.
Roots would know who they are. I'll leave out. And it was the person who told me I had to get out of what was familiar. It was someone that I was working for at the time. They thought I was a rock star, told me was doing all the right things. The pay was good at the time, for what was relevant at the time. The experiences were good. And that person who was very senior above me said to me, we actually need to break up and stop working together. This was my boss. Like, you need to go work for other people. You need to be able to demonstrate your learning agility and your leadership and that you can flex. And so in my mind, I was like, well, why not? Like I'm getting I was very linear, right, in how I was thinking about the career and just figured it would kind of work itself out. And it was the best advice like that he gave, and it worked out. After that, I went to a couple roles where I was what I like to call comfortably uncomfortable, where I didn't know quite what I was doing. I didn't know the individuals and the organization, but pushing me out of my comfort zone. From that point forward, there's like nothing that couldn't be put in front of me that I wouldn't try to figure out. And so that to this day, that was a career changing moment for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, I agree with that. What about you, Roots?
Um, so this person, while never had an opportunity to work with him or for him, he was the past president of NABA Philadelphia. So his name is Reese Blair, and who's a partner at Deloitte. And he was the person that asked me to join NABA Philadelphia
Mm.
when I graduated from Temple. And he has served as not only a sounding board for me, but an individual if I have technical questions or if I have, just things on how to navigate either things that I'm going through. He has always been there for me. But the thing that he did for me was allow me to lean into my discomfort. And this is something that he would
Mm.
always say to me, lean into your discomfort. And every time he gave me a role to do, I felt like it was new, it was big,
Mm.
but he gave me the space to be able to learn and to fail. And even then, allowed me to kind of reflect on, okay, why didn't this go well? And how can we ensure that we learn
Mm.
from the experience? And as our relationship continued to grow, if throughout NABA or professionally, he's always been the one that's challenged me to say, okay, what's next? What is
Mhm.
the thing that you're working on now? How do I help you get to achieve the best version of yourself? And I think without him, I don't think I'd be here today.
Mm.
Oh, that's good. Kudos
That's
to
great.
him, and for that. Bianca, were you going to say something? Did I
No,
hear
it's
you?
great that like as much as we know each other well, just doing this, just even
Yes,
appreciating more the similarities of our experiences.
exactly. I love it, and I love the fact that the motivation we get to go further, to challenge ourselves, and to pick up ourselves after we fail, because well, everybody fails, right? We fall that
Mhm.
sometimes, so it's really important, folks. And folks, if you have questions, drop your questions or your comments in the chat. Feel free to share all of that. But now let's talk about, so you've had a lot of supports in your careers and in your lives, and now you are supporting a lot of our future leaders and our future generations in your respective elected roles within NABA. So this is like a lot of work, hard work on real work, so what keeps you going, like the time, the commitment? I know it's a lot. So how do you prevent yourself from being exhausted, or even when you're exhausted, what keeps you motivated and still keep going?
I would say for
Bruce, yeah,
me,
right.
yeah, I think for me, just understanding the impact that a conversation may have on a person.
Mhm.
And to you, it might just be 5, 10 minutes, but to that individual, it might open up a world of possibilities. One example, I remember I think it was a couple of years ago. We had the NABA Eastern Region Student Conference at Howard University, and I had an opportunity to bring my two boys there, Jordan and
Mm.
Josiah. And we were there all day. We had got there early in the morning, and we were tired, and we were about to, yeah, that's them there. We were about to head out, and I ran into an individual who just seemed kind of frustrated. And I was like, "Hey," introduced myself. "My name is Roots Marc. How's it going?" We were at the career fair. "How's it going?" And he was just frustrated. He was like, "I've been here all day. I've been trying to get in front of one particular firm, and for whatever reason, he just wasn't able to make inroads." It just so happened I had strong contact there. And it could have been just as easy for me to say, "You know what, I'm tired. We've been here all day," and just continued on with my day. Um, but I was able to connect him with one of the recruiters of the firm that he was looking for. And all that took was 5 and 10 minutes out of my day, but it opened up an opportunity for that
Mm.
candidate. And he was someone that was very impressive on paper. He had just came back home from, I believe, serving in the military. And just being able to open that door for him, and open the opportunity for future success for him. So for me, that's what I am. That's what drives me. Is to, I call us, we're in the business of making dreams come true,
Mhm.
right? And for that individual on that day, I was able to make that connection for him and open some doors. So that's what motivates me to continue doing it.
That's awesome. Bianca,
Yeah.
anything to share on this? Yeah.
So there's two things that come to mind, and you use the word kind of like there's a lot, and then when you're exhausted. So in terms of how I keep going, and then kind of what the why. So I'll start with the why and then the how. The why is, I'm so proud of kind of where I've gotten to in my career, or, my family, personally and professionally. But when I look back at my professional career, I remember at times how lonely it felt. Um, Not knowing the answers and just wishing someone would just help me, right? Just give me that 5 minutes to tell me what am I missing, right? So a lot of things that I learned probably took longer because I did not have someone who could just tell me what, kind of either the unspoken rules or the things that um, I needed feedback on or help with. And so
Mhm.
for me, it's being able to truly give back and help. So, but maybe for the generations or so behind me, it's not as difficult. And I'm someone who just by nature who is grateful and appreciative. And so to me, I was raised as part of being grateful is to also pass on your blessings to others. And then how do I keep going when exhausted? And I'm better at this now than I used to be, is being intentional. Because my tendency is to put others first and say yes to everything because I really, my heart's in the right place, but you can't, or you can't really give people the 110% if you're overcommitting. So I'm really thoughtful about being intentional in terms of my level of commitment and time so that I can bring 110% of the best version of myself.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm gonna stop for a minute with my questions and take one of the questions from our audience member. And either one of you, whoever wants to, and both don't have to answer this, but whoever wants to take this, it's so this is from Kwame. What is the mindset you carry when driving into unfamiliar waters, and what is the process of making yourself familiar, whether it be through mentorship or a specific way that you do your research? Um, and but research, I would say, I can take this. I would say research. If you're going into an unfamiliar territory, research is I think that's the key, right? Would you say, Bianca?
I do, and I think understanding the business, right? And so whether you're in retail or finance or whatever your profession is, and in whatever organization, at the end of the day, right? Employers hire people, so this is about an employer who understand their business and how they make money and what's going to drive them, right? Because the skills that you bring in the job you can fill is all working towards that. So to your point, I definitely think doing your research and making sure you understand the business and how it works, like at the right level that you should for the role, is super important.
Also, and maybe for you, Ruth, because this is maybe more accounting related, although it's broad. So this is from Franco. It says, since the accounting world is evolving with AI and other technologies, what mindset shifts are the most important for everyone right now and for accountants of the future?
Yeah, so AI is an emerging, and not, I wouldn't say emerging, it is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all have to adapt to that new technology. And for those that are maybe younger in their career, they're more AI native. I think it comes naturally to them. But I think for some of our more seasoned professionals, it is a tool that we need to learn, and not only learn, but how does that augment our current roles and skill sets that we have. I think it's more of a partner in what it is that you're looking to drive, the outcomes that you're looking to drive, and how do you harness that and use that to deliver the outcomes that you want, right? So right now, you may use AI as a way to maybe complete some of the administrative tasks that needs to be done, so that you can focus on the more cognitive skills that you're looking to perform, right? And I think that's where right now AI can be helpful, is helping you kind of move away from some of the tasks that may be time consuming and putting those effort into those items that generate more outcomes and more the desired results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think, yeah, the human insight is not going to go away. It's just about
Correct.
leveraging the AI
Yep.
to do all of that. Bianca,
Yeah.
let me shift gears a little bit and talk about you as a woman and as a Black woman. So, in the professional world, is there a time that you had to advocate for yourself that in a way that you felt was a little bit risky, or as I know it's not always smooth sailing, or has it been smooth sailing for you all the way?
uh no, it hasn't. And it's funny when you ask the question, uh, if there was something I would do over, I have no regrets, and I believe all things happen for a reason, and your path is meant to be that, like, I'm grounded in spirituality, so like that's all there. And so no questions or regrets or whatever, say I do things over. But if I were to do something different that gets at your question, it was actually what you suggested, which is advocate for myself. And so throughout my career, like how I've gotten here is by delivering, being in relentless pursuit of whatever was asked of me, but not always advocating for myself. And so a couple years ago, I had an executive coach that my boss had given me to really help me as I was transitioning to a role and help me again continue to elevate. And so at this time, I was thinking about what's kind of next for me in my career. And one of the things that I came to realize, and I knew it, but through this engagement, was I had not spoken up for myself, right? I had been someone who got amazing opportunities because I delivered, but not often in my career being really deliberate about what did I want next, or understanding what the next job would be, instead of chasing the next title or the next opportunity, like asking, hey, I want a job that's going to give me these skills, and because I want these skills because this set of skills will ready me for the next opportunity. So I wish I could say like that I
Mhm.
had a tricky, but it's actually, I think, a lesson in that in itself, in that I didn't, right? It was like,
Yeah.
I'm providing for my family, like I'm
Mhm.
continuing my tenure, I'm getting experience. Like that's kind of, kind of how
Yeah.
I charted the territories. But looking back, and that's what I often coach a lot of individuals I talk to now, is get clear and be
Yeah.
intentional about what you want, right? From your mentor, your sponsor, whatever it is. And it may take time and patience and maybe having to go lateral to get a set of skills. But if you're focused and intentional, and not just about moving up the ladder, but broadening, right? And your experiences, then you can be more deliberate
Yeah.
about, hey, I would like my new extra opportunity. You may not always get what you want, but
Mhm.
if you don't, people will give you what they think you want and need versus you
Exactly.
getting what you want.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. It's always about clarity. Clarity is
Yeah.
important, and I'm thinking about the bigger picture, and not just what's
Mm-hmm.
just right
Right.
in front of you
Mm-hmm.
right now. I know, Ruth, earlier on before we started, we were both talking about your son going off to college. So I think this is great. A quick question for you, from Dylan. He says, what is something you would tell a person just starting their career in accounting?
Um, So for me, and I don't think it has changed too much, right? So there is the technical aspect of it, right? One, you have to be technically sound in the field, right? So it doesn't matter if it's accounting, finance, human resources. I think you have to be technical competent. That is the baseline. I think you have to build resiliency, and I like that there, resiliency and intentionality build success. But I think in most profession, and I felt like in accounting, what was helpful for me was asking why. Why are we doing this? Right. So if you're footing a investment statement, why are we footing this? What is the purpose? And asking why, understanding the business behind the purpose of the business really provides understanding of what exactly that you're doing. Because at the end of the day, anybody can and when I say foot, that means just summing up. I don't know if the people still do that or not currently, but anybody can do the math, right? Anybody can do the technical aspects of it, but the individuals that understand the reason why this company makes money or how this company makes money, Bianca mentioned that before, right? How this company makes money is where you add value as an accountant or others. I remember at Prudential, I used to support our actuaries, our actuarial department. And the actuarials that I found to be the most successful, or those that maybe got the most opportunities, is understand how their work translated to the bottom
Mm-hmm.
line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to be able to just do the math, but why are we doing this, and how can we help the firm improve in its if it's profitability or some analytics. I think those are the things that were valuable for the firm is when the accountants or the actuaries or the financial analysts was able to tell why things were happening and provide insights to their leaders or to their business partners.
I love that. Show your value, provide good insights, and be able to do that. That just goes a long way. Um, so feel free to jump in anytime if you want to answer any of these questions. I think maybe Bianca, this might be a good one for you. This is from Sammy. It says, as you look back, what is something that you wish you started doing earlier in your career that students like, as a student that they
Mm.
should be doing right now? Something that you think you should have done maybe when you were in college and didn't do, or that they would benefit from doing right now while still in college.
I would say with time and age, it was easier for me to figure out what are my superpowers, um, what gives me energy, um, and where I needed to grow. Like you figured it out as you went along. It's like, okay, great, got this. Right. So like really reflecting and use there's so many other like tools and resources available for people to figure now to use to figure out like would I enjoy this job? Like you want to be somewhere, where I've got 37 years for a company, a great experience at the company, and I wouldn't change what I do for a living at all. Like, love the work I do, know the impact I've had, but figure that out earlier, right? That would be what is figure out where you want to go and what are the experiences you need. Certain jobs, maybe you need an international experience. Maybe certain jobs, maybe you need to get different acumen in different places. Figure that out early, so that you can be really deliberate and intentional. And there's far more resources. And I think, when I came into the workforce almost 40 years ago to help with that. So we're just curious your thoughts if you.
Yeah, I think leaning into your superpower is key, right?
Mhm.
It's a competitive world out there no matter what field you go into, but identifying as early as you can what it is that's your superpower is going to drive your success, not only short term but in the long term as well. But I would say with that, just be cognizant of maybe your areas of opportunities, right? You
Mhm.
can't be lacking so much in a certain area and be so deficient and that becomes a hindrance to what your superpower is. But to the extent you can figure out if your superpower is managing relationships, if it's the technical aspects, if it's something else, lean into that. Try to find opportunities that highlights your superpowers because I think that's what's going to differentiate you from others.
And the
I,
one thing I would add to that, and I
yeah.
know you kind of get a little bit of like kind of you look back in your career, sometimes when we have superpowers and they just show up, depending on what they are, they may not always land well. So they may seem like
Mm,
superpowers to us, but if you're on a team with other people or you're in an organization, there are times where your superpowers can be uncomfortable, maybe even threatening to other people. And so really think about, what are these superpowers? How do they help the team that I'm a part of? But also make sure that you don't over rotate and ensure
mm.
that you're, communicating and connecting and sharing those superpowers with others.
Yeah, and talking about the superpowers, right? This is something, and if you were struggling with your superpower, trying to define it or leverage it or figure out what's going on, this is an area where maybe a mentor would come in, right? You could have a chat
Hmm.
with your mentor.
Yep.
So I know we spoke about the mentor and the sponsors, but anybody want to touch briefly on the difference between um, each role and why it's important for folks to actually have both in their lives?
I'm going to defer to the HR rep. The
Would
HR
Our
you?
HR,
HR
our HR, tell us
professional.
about,
So
yeah,
for me
mentorship.
personally,
Mhm.
Yeah.
my one thing I will say, for me personally, it's been really important to have a set of sponsors and mentors who look like me and don't look like me, right? Or don't have the same socioeconomic, you know, ethnic, gender, like experiences, because the more people you surround yourself that are different than of course, you need a little safe space of people who are like you that you can talk with, but really expanding that. So for me, a mentorship has changed over the years. Is really, if when I've been clear on what I'm trying to develop, then it's been easy to identify who's the person that has that skill or that superpower that can coach me, so that when I'm going to the person, let's say if I were going to Roots, for example, and say, look, I could use some coaching and mentorship, and he says, so how can I help you? I got to have an answer, right? Like, so for me, it's the mentorship is really being delivered and making sure I'm thinking about who's the person that can help me, coach me as a safe space, who's not evaluating my performance, making my paid decisions, right? That really can be a good coach and sounding board. And then for me, for a sponsor, has been individuals who have power and influence in the organization, in that if they're in rooms that you're not in, they are able to advocate for you, whether you ask them to or not. And so when I think about most of the advocacy I've gotten in my almost 40 years of proof, I probably don't even know it wasn't in the room, but how I delivered and I earned what I call credits in the bank with certain individuals that cared. And sometimes they would even ask me, like, hey, what do you want to do next? Like, that's sponsoring me. Like, me
Mhm.
answering that question and them going and doing whatever else I don't even know with that information is sponsoring for me. So one I feel like is more formal, and the
Yes.
other is more kind of earned, why is it kind of that earned sponsorship?
Yeah, I would say I have both, and I do both for folks in my circle. And I have a lot of unofficial mentors and unofficial sponsors, and I give back as well, because it's
Yeah.
just so important in our professional lives. So here's a question from Wendy. She says, in your experience, how does being part of a professional organization like NABA influence long-term career growth compared to relying solely on technical skills?
So I think for me, the organization that has helped me out throughout my career obviously has been NABA, in many ways. So one, being engaged in NABA provides you a safe space to learn and to fail as well, right? So
Mhm.
as part of a local board or part of a committee, you get to early in my career, I was able to hone my skills as it relates to leadership and managing people. And those things are very different, right? And how do you manage and lead individuals and a team for a common goal can take many shapes and forms. And I was able to learn that through NABA and then use some of those skill sets, those same skill sets, at my job the next day. So learning how to incentivize or what is it that motivates an individual or a team member or the team to achieve a certain goal was something that I honed in at NABA. The other thing too that I learned quite a bit from NABA was I was just say influencing
Mm.
and work at various levels. So I had an opportunity to be the president of NABA Philadelphia local chapter in the Eastern region, and I had an opportunity to business development. How do I go into different corporations or different institutions and have them sponsor or become corporate partners? And understanding, okay, what is it that this institution is looking from us? How can we add value? And those skill sets that I learned was the same thing that I used at work with my business partners, right? If I am asking for 30 minutes of a leader or a senior leader's time, what is it, how do I be clear to ask them, hey, what is it that I am going to deliver, and make sure that I am able to deliver that in a timely manner. And I learned most of those soft skills and most of those skill sets at NABA.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would say to add to that, and when you are, whether it's NABA or another organization, definitely, if you're not a member of NABA, consider joining NABA. But not, don't just be a member, get engaged, be involved,
Yes.
raise your hand, volunteer, and say, yeah, what do you need to get done? Me, I'll do it. That's how things happen, right? Would you agree, Bianca?
Yep. Yeah, and it's a safe space to learn and grow.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of a question which is like, what would you say to your young self? Let's say you're just out of college, first day in school. So this question is coming from Tyler. Right, it says, if either of you had to look back and reflect on your career, what is the one thing that you know now that you wish you had known when you first started your career? So whether you are a new graduate or you're just going into the professional environment.
Hmm.
For me, I think I would know, because I remember a long time ago, one of my older brothers wanted me to learn technology and do some computer programming stuff. I wish I had done that, because I think my AI and technology skills would be much further along than where they're at. I'm still in a good space, a good place, but I think I might be much further along.
For me, I would say building network faster. I mean, it's so much easier now, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm like now, like really date myself. So we're talking pre-cell phone, Rolodex, like the ability to connect with people across companies and stay in like is just exponentially greater than it was early in my career. So it wasn't available, but I do think being deliberate about kind of my circle and build connections, even if it's not, and it should be just because I'm looking for a job, meaning someone who's your sounding board who can help you understand what's happening outside of your industry. I think in any organization, when you're there, a long period of time, and that could be in this environment like 5 years, like you become insulated with about the organization that you're with. It may find it difficult to kind of keep abreast of what's happening in the industry. So I would say kind of building that network of people to kind of continue to learn and grow with, and help me to bring some external perspective. Would have done that.
Yeah, sounds
The other
good.
thing I actually would bring up, and you
Mhm.
guys may find this term hard to believe, but it is true. I am a high energy introvert, so I don't get my energy from being with people. And at the end of the day, let me clarify. So like introvert versus extrovert, and then there's kind of the in
Yes.
between, right? But I'm outgoing, right? So people tend
Mhm.
to think that if you're introverted, that means you're quiet, and
Yes.
that's like not it, right? It's like, where do
Mhm.
you get your energy, and where do you um re-energize? And so for me, I still remember there was someone in my career, and this is probably going back 25 years ago, where after work, and true story, like the group would go out after work and have drinks and stuff, and I go home. Like I love my team and working with them, but I would go home. And I remember at one point this boss said to me, "There's a perception um, that you don't want to be part of this team." Like people create, right? Absent information, people are going their own reality. And it was at that point that I realized it was nothing more than I was people spent. Like, so my introverted brain
Yeah.
had just turned off. So it was nothing to do with the team. And so something I wish, I mean, it happened early enough that I was able to course correct it, that I really understood my style and how to find that balance and where to get, to get energy, because people, their perception could be,
Hmm.
if you're in a meeting and you don't say
Yes.
anything,
Yes.
you're upset. If your arms are folded, you're listening, it's because introvert and like my mind or
Hmm.
ADHD brain can't sit long, right, and listen. And so I think learning early on what, kind of what were my strengths and what are the things that give me energy, and figuring it out. Like, I wish I had known that. So now I self-manage, right? I know how to balance my day and travel and different things, because the best version of myself has time to decompress. Um, and so that's something that when I look back, I wish I'd realized, because it was just playing out in all kinds of like not good ways. And it was just simply me navigating in a way and saying yes and no to things, not
Yeah.
realizing the importance of them, but I was actually doing it to protect my energy, and had to figure
Yeah.
out how to strike that balance if I wanted to stay in a role that requires a lot of extroversion, right? I
Ye-
chose a career that isn't
Yes.
one where you could be introverted. And so I figured it out early enough, but I wish I had figured that out
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah. I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's really important for us to, yes, we want to be comfortable with ourselves in our professional
Yeah.
environment, but still, if you're going to be any job where you're at in the profession, you're going to have to mingle with folks. So the earlier you get comfortable with networking and
Yes.
knowing how to put things in different buckets, it will just help you in the long run as you continue to grow.
And we're always all work in progress, right? Like, I got to go
Mhm.
to something tomorrow, and there's a big networking thing, and I'm an executive and I
Yeah,
need to be in a room. And so, I'm gonna, make
exactly.
sure my aura ring tells me I got good sleep, and I'm gonna, so I can bring that. So I'm much more self-aware of how to bring the best. Like, I am who I am, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not one's right or wrong. It's how to make sure I'm very self-aware, and so that I can always bring the best version of myself.
And I
Yeah,
think
Bianca
to
just threw in there about her aura ring. Aura ring. I still need to get one. For those of you who know what that's all about, I still need to get one, but I haven't gotten one yet. But
I went to bed
I'll
early for
do
you
it.
last night, and I got exercise. I came in at an 85 and 85 today, so I was ready for you.
Awesome. Good. Ruth, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just to maybe underline that point that Bianca made, and sometimes you'll see your counterparts get opportunities, and you
Mm,
don't get it, and it's not because you're not technically sound or you're not as good,
mm,
but it is that people like working with people that they know, right, and they're comfortable
mm,
with, and I think some of those relationships are forged after hours at the bar, right? Or at when folks go out to social activities or social hours. And I think that if your goal is to continue progressing in your career and depending on the
mhm.
company as well, that is part of work. And you're gonna have to figure out how do you manage that to ensure that you get those same opportunities that others are getting as well.
Let me
Uh,
throw in there something, Roots, when you said it, and we haven't specifically dug into this, but I want to call it out, and that, like, it
mhm.
didn't come to my mind to this moment. We have
Yes.
probably someone in line, or we'll see this later, that are fully hybrid, or
Mhm.
fully, or hybrid or fully virtual, right? That don't go into an office and
Mhm.
don't go in. And what I would say to those individuals is, you can still be deliberate with who are the people I need to network with. It takes time.
Yeah.
I remember during, like, I built that skill during COVID myself, right? So I've spent 30 something years at Prudential in our headquarters, and I'm in the people business. So, like, you couldn't walk through the building and I didn't know anyone and knew who to call. If I didn't know the answer, I know who to call, right? And I
Yeah.
was very comfortable in that space. And then a year into COVID, I realized I was only working with and talking to the people I needed to talk to get work done. And I was
Mhm.
feeling disconnected from relationships. And so to this day, because we're back hybrid, so it's still nothing like it was 2019. I made sure to make a list of who are the people I need to stay in touch with. And could be coffee, it could be virtual catch up. And so my call out is that's a new skill we're all figuring out. So I don't know that Roots or Rumé and I can, like, give you the master plan.
Yeah.
But for those that are fully virtual, like, be creative. It doesn't limit you. You just have to work a little harder and be more
Yes.
intentional about building those relationships. Being thoughtful with there's no money in the budget to travel to the office, but when you do get to go to the office, being deliberate about who you spend your time with and have lunch with and network. And so just being deliberate and intentional, I think it's important. But wanted to make sure I acknowledge our fully
Yes.
virtual workforce.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you so much for that, Bianca. I appreciate it. So let me quickly address this. This is from Amber. She says, with CPAs being incredibly busy, during tax time. What is your advice for aspiring CPOs on how to manage time? I think being in school or early career, that's a good time for you to figure out how to manage time. So when if you're in school, you're planning how much time you're going to study for one class versus the other class, how much time you're going to go out and hang out with friends, how much time is family time. So it's the same thing. Whether you're a CPA, whatever field you're in, you are going to have different buckets in life, and you want to be able to fulfill each bucket. So plan time and just plan for it. There's sometimes you're going to spend more time for one thing versus the other, but that happens. Another question I want to get into, I think this is actually the same question from Marc. He says, how do you balance working in the workplace and working virtually online? Actually, Bianca, you just answered this. And does working virtually online affect the way you work? I think you covered it, right?
I think, yeah. The one thing I'll share that's an interesting article that I read recently, and I'm trying to put this into practice, is this whole idea, and it was an article that came out during COVID, of like Zoom fatigue, right? So I think the importance of focusing on your own well-being. So we could talk all the like how to be the best working version of yourself, but you're only, as good to the company as you are to yourself. And so I would say, really being deliberate about, particularly if you're somewhere where the weather's about to shift to warmer, get out and get a walk during the day, come up with a routine in the morning or at night so you're not sitting in, the same location, look at the same walls and clicking buttons all day. An article I read, again, in the same thing, and I could share with you, maybe you want to pass it along, was around like, be cognizant of your camera. Like, it's okay to have some meetings that you take with your camera off, or even in this article says, turn your own self-view off, because your brain is not intended to look at 15 boxes during a day. If you're sitting in a room with someone, you're probably looking at the two or three people in front of you and then pivoting, whereas you're on camera and your brain is like hyper focused. And so I think that whatever the thing is, like figuring out that well-being for yourself, I would say, in addition to the, intentional things about building relationships and networking.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So I would get into the top of the hour. Oh my God, the hour always goes by too fast. So I'm going to do a quick round robin. Just say the first word that comes to mind. Okay. This is one of my favorite interviewers, James Lipton. I used to ask these questions. Ruth, what's your favorite word?
Resiliency.
It's what?
Resiliency.
Nice.
Okay.
Bianca?
And I have it on my bracelet, intentional.
I love that. Mine is
my
yes.
time, my space, my energy. Like, if you think about being really intentional about who you give your energy, who gives you energy versus take your energy. So intentional.
Awesome. And what is your least favorite word? What's Bianca, you? Least favorite.
Besides my kids saying huh, so I guess that doesn't count. Can't.
I love that. Ruth?
Talking about kids, bro is mine.
Oh man.
What was the word?
Bro.
Oh, yeah.
Bro. But for me,
mine is no. What was the last movie you saw? Anybody want to take this? Last movie.
Same movie 4 times, Sinners.
Oh, you took mine. Sinners was the last movie I saw.
The first two, because I had to understand it. Like, it was deep in a good way. I was like, all right, I need that again. Like, yeah.
I just binged on Paradise. So
Paradise. I haven't seen that one. I saw a movie on the plane. I can't remember what it was. That's the only time I get to watch movies these days. What about the last book? The last book you read?
2 at the same time. One was the book Let Them, and then one, which you may or may not see my background, called Human Plus Machine. It's the whole theory around, what you touched on earlier. It's not AI instead of, it's an addition, right? And so what are the skills that you need to think about and develop, and how do you help companies leverage, not just agentic, but generative AI as well?
Okay.
I had to go to my audiobook. So it's I read the book 1929. It's by Andrew Ross Sorkin, and it talks about the economic crash and the Great Depression, and so much similarities between 1929 and some of the things that we're experiencing today.
Yeah,
so
really? I gotta write that one down.
And I know that's on the New York bestseller list. Well, the one that I just read, I just finished reading, I did not know about this. From Bo Eason, there's no plan B for your A game. This is a
That's
Mhm.
really
right.
good book. There is no plan B for your A game. So get your A
Okay.
game together. And then the last one, what profession other than your own would you like had to have had? If you could have had a different profession, what would it be?
For me, it would be sales.
Really.
Okay.
Mhm.
For me, it would be baking, cooking. I love to cook and
Baking.
bake. Like get rid of like, especially calling it like baking, like in pastries and making, desserts and food bring people joy. But then being creative with it.
Awesome. Well, me, I would be acting. That would be it. So, any final closing words from either of you for our audience today? Any closing words you like to share?
I would just say to all the folks that are out there listening, depending where you are in your career, um, careers aren't linear. There's a lot of peaks and valleys, and as long as you stay resilient, intentional, and I have something that I teach my boys called the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I think if you
Mm.
employ those 3 things, you'll end up at a place that you never imagined.
Love
I think
that.
we end on that
Bianca.
note. Drop the mic. I got nothing. That I love that.
That was great. Proper preparation
Prevents poor performance.
prevents poor performance. Love it.
Love
So,
it.
folks, that brings us to the end of today's fire chat. Bianca, Ruth, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you. Thanks
generous
for
with your
having us.
stories.
No problem. It was great.
Honesty with the talking about your vulnerability. Love that. So, folks in this audience, thank you so much. For me, today was a reminder that leadership is built one chapter at a time, and the best leaders never forget the version of themselves that was scared, that was uncertain, or just starting out.
Hmm.
That's what makes us human. So if you're a lead, if there is a leader that you'd like to hear from for our next LinkedIn Live, please drop their name in the comments or message me directly. I'll do my best to make it happen. Thank you all for joining us. Have a
Thank you.
fabulous rest of your day.
You
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Thank you. Go Bird.
Thank you.
And remember, we rise